Action. Welcome to the Tibet Center in South Orange, New Jersey. We will begin by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teaching throughout the length and breadth of the West by VENERABLE. You can find all the prayers in the FAQ section on our website. By the force of the
blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon,
and especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness. May they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. Now the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. And at the same time, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this. Seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness, form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, though there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that Samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family, Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you are taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One said this, and Avalokiteshvara, the whole gathering, the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, again, I've been asked by Darren to repeat the statements that he gave me last time on Monday. Please ask viewers to like and subscribe to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. Please also mention the Tibet Center's Full Fund Drive for 2024. You can donate online through our website, Facebook, or Instagram. Your donation helps us offer these lectures and White Tara sadhanas. And by your donation, we're able to provide these free of charge to all. And oh yes, Tony is telling me that your donation is tax deductible. We are a 501c3 foundation. Also, starting next year, that is 2025, on the 6th of January, Monday, we will have classes in New York City every Monday at a place called Balance Arts Center, 151 West 30th Street, and that's between 6th and 7th Avenues. Okay. So, we've been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World. And we have reached the futility of war, page 86.
Making me hungry.
Oh, I forgot. We recite Om Mani Padme Hum. Let's do a rosary of Om Mani Padme Hum. So, when we recite Om Mani Padme Hum, after having said all these prayers, really think about the meaning of Om, which is our body, our speech, and our mind. So it's the A-U-Ma, the body, speech, and mind of myself in their unpure forms, And Om also represents the purified, enlightened body, speech, and mind. In other words, the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. Mani means jewel, and the jewel represents the method aspects of our practice. Method aspects meaning compassion, patience, perseverance, concentration, the generosity. So all of the methods by which we cultivate the causes for enlightenment through our actions are the method aspect of the practice, represented by the jewel. And then Padme is a lotus, and the lotus symbolizes wisdom. And here we're talking about the wisdom realizing emptiness, the wisdom realizing selflessness, the wisdom that realizes the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena. And these two aspects, the method aspect and the wisdom aspect, have to come together, and it is that when they join that we attain enlightenment. So the joining of the method and the wisdom aspect is represented by the last syllable in the mantra, hum. So as you recite Om Mani Padme Hum, think of the meaning of each Om Mani Padme Hum, and also concentrate on the compassion that Om Mani Padme Hum is the mantra of. Compassion is specifically the wish to remove the suffering of others. So cultivate that wish to remove the suffering of others, and think about the way by which you do that, which is your own attainment of enlightenment, so that you can most effectively help others find freedom from suffering. Okay. So Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Padme Hum, Om Mani 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 Padme Hum. So compassion is the wish to remove the suffering of others. It's not the removal of the suffering of others. If compassion were the removal of the suffering of others, given that there are so many suffering people in cyclic existence, then no one would have actually realized or developed compassion. We can't the true ability to remove the suffering of others is the ability to most skillfully teach others what they need to do in order to remove their own suffering. And so the pursuit of enlightenment is a pursuit of the ability to best help others work at removing their own suffering. As is often said, a Buddha cannot remove your suffering. A Buddha can simply teach you the method by which you can remove your suffering. So the responsibility lies with us to work on ourselves, and we work on ourselves if our work on ourselves is aimed towards the attainment of freedom from our own suffering. That is a worthy pursuit, but it's not the ultimate pursuit. It's not the pursuit that we're really working at, which is the attainment of a state where we can benefit others. So the cultivation of compassion, that cultivation of the motivation of compassion, is really important for determining where we will end up. I find this very interesting. The method by which you extricate yourself from cyclic existence, by which you extricate yourself, you get out of the cycle of rebirth, which has as its nature suffering, is by realizing that the lack of self, the lack of any kind of intrinsic or inherently existent self. The method by which you attain the full state of a Buddha, you are not removing simply the afflictive obstacles to liberation. You are removing obstacles to omniscience. You are becoming a Buddha, an omniscient Buddha. There too, the method by which you do that is to realize at a deeper and deeper level, with a more and more subtle consciousness, your emptiness of inherent existence. So that aspect of your practice, whether you are aiming towards mere liberation from cyclic existence or whether you are working towards the attainment of a fully enlightened Buddha, is the same. The difference is what motivates you. If you are doing this to attain liberation from cyclic existence, you will attain, your practice will lead you towards that attainment. If you are working towards the attainment of full enlightenment out of the greatest compassion for others, a compassion that so desperately wishes to free others from their suffering, then that realization of emptiness will lead to the attainment of Buddhahood, the attainment of omniscience. You will remove not just the afflictive obstacles, but you will remove the obstacles to omniscience. And it is by removing the obstacles to omniscience that you develop the clairvoyance, you develop the omniscience by which you can most effectively help others out of their state of suffering. But you're helping others out of their state of suffering by means of this omniscience. And that in itself, if you really consider it, indicates that it's not that you are bestowing liberation on others, that you are bestowing enlightenment on others. No, you are using your omniscience to most skillfully help others along their way, their practice, their steps towards their attainment of enlightenment. So this cultivation of compassion, this cultivation of what this mantra Om Mani Padme Hum represents, means is very important. It will infuse whatever it is that you do with this wish to remove the suffering of others, and thereby have everything that you do influence your practice towards the attainment of the ultimate state of Buddhahood. And so these wonderful tools keep us going. These wonderful tools, a mala, a rosary, a chenga, helps us remember to just recite Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme, as we're walking along the street, as we're sitting on the train or on the bus or whatever. We can be doing all sorts of things. I mean, in today's world, we have huge amounts of time to
Waste.
use our phones. If that time were spent saying Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, maybe from time to time you can check your phone to see that you're on the right track or whatever. But the Om Mani Padme Hum will really have the most wonderful influence over you. And yes, of course it's good to say Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. But if you can think a little bit about what it means, if you can think a little bit about the our impure body, speech, and mind, if you can think about what money means, what the method aspects of our practice are, what the wisdom aspect of our practice is, what it means to bring these two together, represented by the Hum. Just a little bit of thought as you're saying Om Mani Padme Hum, then that recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum has far more vitality, has far more power. It's not merely the recitation of a mantra. It's infusing that with our thought, and thereby actually having it mean something. So,
It's something about the subtler consciousness. Subtler the consciousness, the stronger the compassion. Something like that, or did I mishear?
no, as you go up the grounds of a bodhisattva,
All right. Yeah.
you are basically focusing your mind on your realization of emptiness, but you are doing it with a more and more subtle consciousness. Your mind is more and more subtle as you progress along.
And the subtler the mind, the more stronger the realization, I would think, something like that.
So, we have arrived at this chapter or subchapter called Futility of War. And so I'll read His Holiness. The 20th century was one of intense human conflict on a scale never seen before. It is estimated that more than 200 million people were killed in wars, revolutions, and genocides. From the Nazi Holocaust to the mass murder by despots such as Stalin and Mao in the latter part of his career. From the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge to the attempts at ethnic cleansing in the Balkans and the genocide in Rwanda, the suffering that humanity has inflicted upon itself is truly hard to bear. Of course, human history has always been interrupted by war. So long as there are humans, I think there will always be some conflict, but the scale of destruction in the past 100 years has been unprecedented. Even during times of peace, human technologies of destruction have been developed, enhanced, and traded without pause. Today, there is no place on the face of the earth unthreatened by these arsenals of destruction. When approaching the problem of violence in the world and thinking about how we can create a safer world for future generations, we must do more than just appeal to politicians and their adversaries to exercise restraint. Now, I feel that this is where we have to. I mean, I think that what I've read so far, we all agree with, and to have the monstrous reality of what transpired in the 20th century presented to us is shocking. It's and upsetting. We must do more than just appeal to politicians and their adversaries to exercise restraint. So what must we do, is my question to you.
I think the only way you could change things today is to find a way for people to make more money doing something else, because I don't really think it's about the issues anymore. I think it's just about money. I think that people who make the munitions are so powerful and so greedy that they just encourage wars just so they can make money. So until there's a different way for greedy people to make that much money, there's going to be a lot of war.
So when I say what can we do?
Come up with an industry or come up with a,
So are you working at that, Carol?
yeah, make jewelry. No, I don't know. I that's the thing. That's why I'm always really happy to know that there are people smarter than me, because I don't have it. I don't have the answer. I mean, again, if you get to the argument that we had on Monday, I can control myself. I can reduce the greed in myself. I don't, but, and if you're gonna apply the same argument, if we all did that, but there's still people out there who are greedy enough, it's like the 1%. They're greedy enough to make up for the 99% who don't have that same greed. And if that's the case, what can you do?
You have to find something that overpowers their inner greed, something that frightens them or something that encourages them in a different direction. I don't know. I think about it myself, But sometimes there's the frightening aspect. But we can't put on that show.
Well, we can introduce into the education system
That's
the
gonna-
fact
that's gonna
that
be done
the
with.
aggression, this type of aggression seldom benefits anybody and seldom resolves anything. And we can try to imbue that concept from a very early age into some kind of a national curriculum.
That started, Canadians do it, but
We should have a female president.
well, we'll
His
see.
Holiness says that
Catherine the
women
Great,
are
we had
usually
that.
more compassionate by nature, not always.
Probably, no, I would agree, but at least they might talk to each other and not posture.
It won't change capitalism, though.
Right.
The female- Well,
Big
no,
point, big point.
these people are gonna be be greedy and wanting to make money and more money.
When does money greed for money translate in their minds into aggression and people dying.
That's not what I don't really think that that's what they think about.
Of course not, but
No.
They just
they were decent, they would.
make the money, they entice people, or they allow other people to have the aggression, but they're not making any effort. The people that wanna make money by selling munitions don't put any effort into calming the situation. It benefits them to stir it up.
Yeah. How do we get the people who make the munitions who are supposed to be smart to change their mindset? So they realize the end result of what they're doing.
They're not gonna do that. They're just
I know they're
very-
not now, but we gotta find a way to do it. We
They're
gotta
very
fool them.
short-sighted.
Yeah,
We'll get them involved in something
Right.
more profitable, like mineral rights. or
embarrass them.
something.
I don't
Yeah. Trading in rare minerals or ores and so on.
That goes on.
Substitute something.
Well, they don't trade, they sort of co-opt everything. They find some weak country and take it over. The Congo, all of Africa is one big pile of greed for rare earth and all these other minerals. And
Yeah, and it's not even
big
just
dictatorships are
the
there.
ammunition and the weapons, it's the destruction, and then they get to go in and rebuild, and they make money on the rebuilding. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just the whole system is geared,
they think that way.
it's been happening since I was born.
It started when you were born.
No,
That's
it didn't start, but I've seen it since I
Your
was a
fault,
kid.
Carol.
No, I'm
Be
not
quiet
sure.
in your own house and kids will get that.
So,
I don't know, we're joking.
to bring it back to what we're doing here, I think it's unrealistic to think that we are going to be able to introduce new industrial aims.
Oh.
I think that and if we really think about what samsara is, I remember when the Guerlain perfume samsara came out, and
Yeah, I
In,
remember. We had a big deal with it.
at Macy's they had a big launch, and I walked through Macy's with Chungla Rinpoche, and he said, if they knew what samsara actually is.
True.
And it was squirting out, and the
Yeah, they'll
and
yell
they had these
Samsara,
little-
Samsara.
and
All these queens on the floor.
samsara, which has the nature of suffering, samsara, which we are here to work towards extricating ourselves from, samsara, which is all the stuff that we want to leave, put aside. Now, samsara exists as a result of our state of mind, and yes, theoretically, each and every sentient being has the potential to attain freedom from samsara. There's not a single ant or mosquito or sentient being of any type who does not have the potential to actually attain freedom from cyclic existence. However, that's theoretical. Practically, we are in this state, this situation of samsara, and what we are trying to do, as I said at the beginning of this, is work towards the attainment of an enlightenment that will enable us to help others, to teach others effectively. We can't take them out of samsara, but we can help them, inspire them to make non-lethal things, to aim towards beneficial goals. But the work that we have to do has to be on ourselves. I think that the first step is really working at diminishing the elements of the elements of what are the elements that lead to war. There's greed and there's anger, and particularly focusing on the anger part, because yes, it's true that what makes nations fight against each other might be that someone is trying to sell guns to each. But I think those are the arms sellers are the ones who are taking advantage of this sort of monstrous thing. But it's the anger at each other.
But it's also fear, don't you think? There's an element of fear.
There may be fear, but there's also countries fight.
He has this weapon, I have to have it.
Yeah, I have to be able to stand up to what they're going to do to me. I can't let them do that to my family.
But this country has attacked that country for whatever reason. That country then attacks this country out of anger towards the fact that this country attacked that, and this family attacks that family because that family has done something unjust to this family, and this family gets angry, and out of that anger acts towards this family. So the problems that are causing all those are anger that stems from ignorance. And as I said at the beginning, it's very hard for us to actually help others out of their ignorance unless we really have the wisdom to help them. And so the path that we are working on is one aimed at developing the wisdom to most effectively inspire. And the most powerful way of inspiring is by example. And so we work towards cultivating these qualities, towards anger, it's patience, towards attachment or greed, it's contentment. And the more we cultivate these in ourselves, the more we inspire the world. That's how I see it. I think that yes, there may be those extraordinary people who can really get out there and change other people's minds, but they all are able to do so as a result of the training that they have engaged in themselves.
Don't you think though?
He changed us.
Don't you think it's just like it's so much easier to break something than to build something? It's so much easier to make somebody behave badly than it is to make them discipline themselves.
But you're saying you're talking about making someone else do something.
Right, no, but I'm saying, okay, I can discipline myself and work towards constant improvement in myself for the benefit of others. But all it takes is a crowd with a leader who wants them, let's go get drunk, let's go tear down the town.
Let's get pence.
What?
Let's go get pence.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, the sheep. You can get the sheep to go that way. It's so easy.
Nah.
It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Is that the odds are stacked against.
Yeah, well,
Team
we have
good.
to- can't do nothing. We have to
No,
do
I
something.
agree. I agree, there's not, I'm not saying to not try, but I'm
Yeah.
saying
No, it's
it's a tough road.
and I think it takes lifetimes,
Yes,
Another
in my
thing
case anyway.
that we could introduce into the educational system is to avoid scapegoating, which is to say blaming a particular group for problems that exist socially and otherwise. We've seen historically in many countries at a time of social unrest that a particular group gets scapegoated, and this is like the Jews in Germany, and this is and
The Houthis.
because everything, yes, but it's gone, you know, it's all because of them, and then this creates hostility and diversity and distance, and leads to war, promotes aggression, and perhaps we could address that early on in the educational system.
Certain social habit patterns, in other words,
Yes, that's right.
create the fertility of the ground for this to grow.
which is why they wanna do away with education, the Department of Education.
Yeah, well, they already did.
So that
I don't know.
it will be even harder
Mm.
to make it as a policy issue. It will be an individual issue from this point forward.
What does that mean?
Well, when you have a Department of Education and you have the whole society behind it, you could put forward a policy that says we're going to teach people how to integrate and to be kind and to, you know, it'll be part of the agenda. And if you don't have a Department of Education, then it's every individual family and individual person.
Religion, they'll get
To
behind that.
religion or whatever, to give the guidance. It won't be, and then also, you're right, it will be secular, it won't be non-secular, it will be, if you wanna get that, you're gonna have to go to some religious place. You won't get it in the public schools where everybody's learning how to get along.
You know, what they used to, the Nazi party or the Communist party, you know.
So it's gonna be rough.
Well, the religious organizations aren't doing particularly well in this country.
Agreed.
Just to make a broad comment.
Got that right.
So we need to find a way to introduce these concepts in the schools. We have to find a way.
Out of the world.
Perhaps by addressing the question,
The outer world versus the inner.
why do children go to school? What is it they're supposed to learn? What are they doing there? Then year after year, well, what is the purpose of this? Why are they learning these things? Okay, it's good to know math, it's very practical, but there has to be a broader base that has to do with contributing and integrating into the society as a productive individual, according to the individual's own wishes.
So, we can all contribute to integrating. I mean, this book is His Holiness's attempt to introduce what he calls secular ethics, and secular here does not mean non-religious. It means religious and non-religious, but not associated with a particular religion. It's into our society. I mean, the purpose of this book is to introduce us, to make us think about the idea of cultivating within ourselves an ethical code, developing an understanding of the logic behind it for the sake of our own happiness and for the sake of the happiness of society. Introducing it into schools is something that, as Tony mentioned, many years ago, over 30, 40 years ago in Canada.
It's that long, right? You've been following.
A secular ethics program was introduced, and they are following to see the effects on the people who have partaken of this education, and they see that their ability to hold a job, their ability to do well, their ability to the quality of the students is greatly enhanced by that. So it seems to work. And I attended there was a Mind and Life conference in Dharamsala, which His Holiness hosted, and a lot of the Canadian secular ethics people were there, and they were talking about how they were able to track, and they were talking about the benefits that these things had over society. And one of the questions asked was, when is it good to start this education? And there were those who were saying, well, at the beginning of schooling, and then there were those who were saying, well, it's better to start at kindergarten, and then there were others who were saying, well, maybe it's better to start from the time of the birth of the child. And then there were those who said, well, even when a mother is pregnant, these qualities, as she and her husband, the family, consider these things, that influences the child as well. So here, what can we do? Here, I think that, of course, we can work towards introducing secular ethics to whatever extent we can. I consider that our conversation here, and whoever is listening to it online, all of you,
people outside that can't get in.
the crowds who are
Outside the velvet rope.
Wrong, Nikki.
However, I'd like to go back to what I think we actually can do, which is to work at developing these qualities within ourselves. I actually think that's the only thing that we can do.
And publicizing that this is what we're trying to do. And
I think we have to be careful about publicizing. I think that
we're doing that now. That's it. I mean, it's not a campaign or anything.
we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
We are all working together on this. I think that going out and I think we have to be very careful.
We don't proselytize. That's the way. Just it's here. We're here doing that. If you're interested, good for you, or not good for you. I don't know. But these things are wonderful. These conversations, especially since you lend the gravitas that we need to it, very helpful.
So
I go over things that haven't gone over in my mind.
So His Holiness, when he says, we must do more than just appeal to politicians and their adversaries to exercise restraint. The threats we live with also stem from the weapons industry itself, from the arms trade, and indeed from the culture of violence, often perpetuated by the media, which encourages the delusion that violence is a viable approach to resolving human conflict. Really, what we need is a fundamental shift in human awareness. For in all but the most exceptional circumstances, violence only begets further violence. To suppose that we can achieve peace through violence is therefore altogether misguided. I would say absurd.
Absurd that we can get peace through violence. Yes.
So in the contemporary, deeply interdependent world, war is outdated and illogical. And His Holiness often says, there was a time in the past, maybe in the 19th century, 18th century, whatever, when the world communities were maybe less interdependent, and therefore war, local battles were a way of sort of seem to have a logic. When in the distant past the interests of two groups were entirely separate, violence as a last resort may have had some justification, but this is not the case today. All regions and all people are connected environmentally, economically, and politically. War, oppression, or civil strife in one area inevitably affects people in other parts of the world. The problem of terrorism is an extreme example. When people are powerfully motivated towards destruction, no policing or security system will ever be adequate to prevent them. So, a further factor which makes violence an unrealistic means for resolving conflict is the unpredictability of its outcome. And this is, I think that we all know when we look at we who are members of the most powerful country in the world, we see our country go off and try to solve problems through war, and we think that we're going to be able to do a little bit of something. Iraq is a good example where, for some absurd reason, it was felt that our involvement in Iraq would somehow solve problems.
For Kellogg, Brown and Root, it may solve problems, the financial problem.
In Afghanistan, though,
Same
they
thing.
were totally unrelated. We stepped into this mess. We removed Saddam Hussein, and we found ourselves in this terrible, terrible mess. I mean, really,
It was
terrible
crazy.
mess. It's still.
It's still being unraveled, I think. Yeah. I
So-
remember
The recent war in Iraq is a good example. Though the initial intention was to conduct a limited campaign, the result was a protracted and as yet unsolved conflict which has devastated the lives of millions of innocent people. I mean, it's tragic.
Very.
It's just
Remember-
terrible.
Remember the start of the Gulf War was like during class time, at 8 o'clock at night, 7:30, something like that. And Tibet said, and Heinrich was just disgusted when he heard, his wife was listening to the radio.
So I'm going to reread the first sentence.
Further,
A further factor which makes violence an unrealistic means for resolving conflict is the unpredictability of its outcome. I think we have to really take that to heart. And this is true not only between, I think that when we're talking about wars and battles between countries and things like that, these are all sort of gross examples of the battles between families, between family members. And there too, when we have an argument, when we have a fight, whatever, there is an unpredictability of its outcome, and therefore it's so dangerous to let those sparks ignite. It just can lead in terrible directions.
strong energy let out. Yeah. Jihad.
That's a funny thing to say, though,
What?
that
I didn't laugh.
the unpredictability is a reason to avoid it.
Sure.
No,
Why would you do an experiment, for instance, without?
It's a deterrent, though. It's a deterrent.
life in general is unpredictable. That doesn't mean you don't want to live it.
That's different. There's a
But you
choice.
might start
But you have no
something and
choice
come
about
out
being in
worse.
life. You're here, but you had a choice to start the violence or not.
I'm not saying you should start the violence, but
I
I'm
know
saying the
that,
reason
but
that you shouldn't start
You
it
can't use
is
the
not
example
because
I'm
of the
saying.
unpredictability.
Well,
it's
it
because
should be one element, and it should be one piece of
So
one
if you
part
had
of.
certainty that you would win, then it'd be okay to start the war, is what you're saying.
No, 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 no. I'm saying that you will never be certain that you will win.
So therefore you shouldn't start it.
And that uncertainty should be an element in refraining. There are all sorts of reasons to not start a war or to not get involved in a fight. But that is an element that we can use in our, when we are trying to cultivate the patience, the muscle of restraint, and when we work on developing patience, it's not that we do so when we are faced with whatever it is that's making us angry. We have to do so when we are away from that situation. We have to think about it, and we have to, as we analyze and as we think about the karmic reasons that have brought up the situation, when we think about all the aspects that have caused the situation that we are feeling frustrated about, we must add to that the fact that if we engage with anger, there is this unpredictable aspect and that should help us refrain from getting involved like that. It's just an element. It's just part of it.
And that makes even more sense because anger brings that sort of false certainty, right? Like when you're really angry, you're like, oh, I am clear about what's going on right now. I know what's right
I'm
here.
always that way. I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
no, you're right. Very good.
But then if you could inject this logical thought into your mind that, well, actually, this is going to be unpredictable, and I don't know how the outcomes are going to fall.
Whose holiness say when you're mad at someone, mostly projection. It's not reality.
Mhm.
The false sense again. If this is reality and this is what I'm going to do about it. You always use it that we have a strength of patience. That's a real thing. The strength of your ability to withstand these things.
And that has to be
It can be built up like
developed.
a muscle,
If
It's a
like,
real thing.
military advisors went into a war room and said, there's a 50% chance that we'll win and there's a 50% chance that we'll completely annihilate ourselves, would they be so eager to
No, I
roll the
don't think-
dice?
Who knows? Trump's people going there, Banyan, somebody, probably, they're not even listening to anything normal. I don't know.
In the remaining years of the
In the remaining
21st
years,
century, we must ensure that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. The only way to reduce the level of violence in our world is for more and more people across the globe to consciously adopt a stance of disarmament. Disarmament is compassion in practice. What is required, therefore, is both inner disarmament at the level of our individual hatred, prejudice, and intolerance, and outer disarmament at the level of nations and states. So I think that it is the inner disarmament that we really have to work at. I think that you who are working at the United Nations can be our representative towards outer disarmament. We will all support you, but
We're driving you to work.
the
The limo, please.
we will feed you, but it's the inner disarmament, and the His Holiness talked about individual hatred, prejudice,
He's got it all.
and intolerance, and these are what we have to work at. We all have hatred towards certain people, towards certain situations, whatever. We all have prejudices. All of us can work towards reducing these. This is stuff that we can do. Intolerance. What was it? I was sitting there saying my prayers this morning, and I had let the cat out. The cat came back and sat next to me, and I reached over and I stroked it, and suddenly he went and
Cats do that.
and I swatted it on the
I do
behind.
that.
And then I felt terribly about having done this. He ran away. And then I went to the dentist. I had to go to the dentist
You got
today.
it back in
And
spades.
there was a woman who came in, and she was an elder woman, and she was wearing a sort of fake fur jacket, and it was wet. And in the waiting room, there was an aquarium. There was,
Fish tank.
and she said, I'd like to be a fish. She said, fish have it easy. And it's easy for the people who own the fish, too. And I said, but don't you think the fish get sick? Think of what it's, and they don't have doctors or anything. She said, oh, that's true. But fish, we had cats and dogs when I was small, she said, and I remember we had a cat, and he came into the house and he was all wet, and he came and he started rubbing himself against my feet, and I kicked it. I just picked it up with my foot, and the cat went flying. And suddenly I felt this swat from my mother. She said, don't ever treat the cat like that. And this whole story was like a little teaching to me. Don't ever teach to treat that cat like that. I was getting this whole lecture
Nice
from
little
this
deer.
woman. Yeah. And then it went on, because then the nurse came. So this elder woman, as I say, had this coat on, and the nurse came out, and she said, oh, this is all wet, this. And I thought, it's wet, just like that cat must have been as it was rubbing. And the nurse was, saying, oh, I don't like the coat because it's all wet and it's all soggy, and just exactly what this woman had not liked on her feet when she was a little girl. So
And she wanted to be a fish.
don't swat cats, and maybe fish are not what we should aspire to be. So, on that note, let us work at diminishing our own anger rather than working towards solving the societal angers between countries and all. That we leave to you.
Even if the one is not always effective, I think by working there, I think I'm learning more and more to tolerate all different cultures and nationalities. That's one thing we're learning, to work on ourselves through the interaction of other people around us.
You got a big variety.
And, though it doesn't work as well as we would all wish that it did, it's an institution that is devoted to,
Making peace.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, Darren, are there people whom we, sorry?
No names.
No names.
Excuse me, Ayang Rinpoche passed away December 4th.
Oh, Ayang Rinpoche.
Tokpoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in Bailakupe.
Ayakupe?
His monastery was in Karnataka. Oh, he passed away. Okay, well, let us remember Ayang Rinpoche.
May he
May
swift
he.
return, we pray for. Not the
So, I prostrate to the omniscient one. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arahat, Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat.
The Tathagata is the form of merit. He does not waste the virtue of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit.
He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdoms of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavad is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joint palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure the cause of freedom from passion, virtue is liberating from lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path of liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore their virtues are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm.
So let us read the 8 verses on With the
Determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings, and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide.
In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment.
Prayer for the swift return.
Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Losam Tuwan Dorje Cham. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the victor Losam's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. The holy commitment I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you to cyclic existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Lobsang Tempe, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KHENSUR.
Oh.
Good job.